Hey, what up, though? This is your humble host, Jamal Baraka, GT Media Reviews. This is God Tier Media Reviews from the God Tier Media Zone. It's been a long time since I recorded a video, but I decided to try to get back in the swing of things. It's been a minute. I got my new mic. I'm set up in my new house. I got a new headset to try to make this a little bit easier. So I won't hold you up too long. This is more of a test than anything, but the comic we're going to be reviewing tonight is going to be Superman Smashes the Klan. This is book 1 of 3. It's by Gene Yang, and the artist for the book is Giri Hiro. I don't know this. I'm not sure who this guy is. I'm not familiar with his work, but he has an anime style that I liked when I was looking at this book. The book is very bright, vibrant, and colorful. This is from DC Comics, obviously featuring Superman. And while I was doing my research for this review, I actually discovered that it was adapted from a teleplay that was done in 1940, which basically enhanced my reading feelings of you. When I went in, I was like, what the hell is Superman doing fighting the Klan? And then it was kind of weird that the family was Asian. I'm not sure if that's something that was chosen at this point, or if that was always what they intended to have going on with the story. But when I saw the book, I said, "Hey, this looks interesting." I get my pull list sent to me through an app through my local comic shop, and I saw the name. It came up, Superman Smashes the Klan, and I was like, "Whoa, that name sounds crazy." It was worth my time checking it out, and I picked it up. I want to say last week or the week before, and I was surprised about just everything in the book. You know, it's $7.99. It's the comic. It's like a graphic novel, but it's not like the same size as a normal book. It's somewhat smaller. It's $7.99, and it's about 80 pages, so it's way more to the page count than what I'm used to when I'm reading my comic books. Giri Hiro does the art and the cover for the book, and the book is heavily manga influenced. I don't really read manga, and I don't really watch anime, but I've seen enough of it to know the influence when I see it. This is not an American style artist. I think that for the subject matter, DC may have wanted to go, probably should have gone with an American artist for this. The art style is very lighthearted, and it never really changes tones throughout the book. And you would kind of expect something a little heavier since you're dealing with something like the Klu Klux Clan. The story's set in the 1940s, and I don't know if the original characters were meant to be black or if they were always Cantonese, but we follow a Cantonese family. They move in from China. They move from Chinatown to the metropolis that we know and love, where Superman comes from. I wasn't comfortable with the internalized racism and self-hatred coming from the father. It's the Lee family, and for whatever reason, whenever we see father figures and male characters, the father characters are always aloof, or they're disinterested, or they seem to be they don't really know what's going on. And this is a trope that I really don't like in modern entertainment. It's not just comic books. It's like whenever you have a dad, the dad seems to be an idiot, or something's not right with him. I mean, reading the book, I know he cares about his family, but you know, they have this thing where every time one of his kids or his wife speaks Cantonese, he always corrects them to tell them to speak English. I'm not Cantonese. I don't know how the assimilation process works, but it just seems like that's for me. If a black person was telling me, "Hey, you need to speak differently or speak proper," that's something that I don't really go for, because I think that's more of someone trying. It's kind of like acceptability politics or something like that, where you have to speak a certain way to get respect, and I don't believe in that. So that's kind of what I see with this character of Mr. Lee. He's constantly correcting his wife and kids to speak English. He doesn't even want them using their Cantonese names, and I thought that was a bit much. But as far as the rest of them, you have Tommy. He's the oldest son. He's a natural making friends. He's easygoing. He's a good baseball player, we find out early on in the book. You got his sister Roberta, who seems to be like the main character. She's having a hard time adjusting to the move to Metropolis. She struggles with fitting in and assimilating. And there's one scene with her and her dad where her dad takes her coat, and she's like, "Well, it's the only thing I have from Chinatown." And he's like, "Well, screw that shit," and throws it in the trash and sets it on fire or something. Well, he doesn't set it on fire, but he throws it in the trash, and that's that's kind of like, well, damn, how can you be so cold to your own culture? And I really, that rubbed me the wrong way in this book. She feels kind of like an alien in a new setting because she doesn't really fit in with anybody. Her mom, Mrs. Lee, the mother, she's a first-generation immigrant, and she moved to America a few months before she got married. The siblings in the book, they give each other crap, but from what you see from the setting and the script and everything, you get the idea that it's just the sibling relationship. Siblings give each other crap, and they love each other. We learn from the father that he works for the Metropolis Health Department. He gets a promotion early on in the book to chief bacteriologist. So he's basically a scientist. It's during the scenes where we learn about promotion that we see our first evidence of casual and overt racism. This is crazy. Like, I was reading this book and I was genuinely shocked. And the reason why I'm shocked is not because anything in the book, the title of the book sets you up. You're going to be dealing with racism when you're reading this. What gets you is the art style. Because while you're reading the book, you have like a basic anime look. But what you're getting is like some really racist shit. During our scene, we see evidence, casual racism, overt racism. We have Dr. Jenny. He gives Mrs. Lee a pie. And she says, "The pie, good smell." And Jenny says, "Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the good smell isn't dog." And it's like, whoa, that's very racist. And if I was Mr. Lee or Mrs. Lee and I understood what was going on, I probably would have beat Jenny's ass right then. But that's not what happens in the book. And that if it was written with an American style, I think it probably would have worked better, where you could have captured what was going on a little bit better. And I apologize to anybody that's following this channel that's in anime or manga. It's just me. I'm old and I'm not really into it. It's not bad art, but it's not me. The next scene, we got Tommy joining a local baseball team, and this is where the connection between the Lee family and Superman comes into play, because the baseball team is run by Jimmy Olsen. Tommy makes an impression on the team because he's got an arm. He's a natural baseball player, and the team basically, most of the people on the team are like, "Hey, you should be our pitcher." The thing is that the other guy that's on the team, he's like, "Man, screw this guy. I'm the pitcher," and he challenges Tommy and says, "Hey, I'm gonna go out to bat and see what you can do." So Tommy starts pitching against the guy, but the guy crowds the plate and ends up getting beamed. Everybody tells the other guy, his name's Chuck, to get out of the way. He won't do it, so he ends up getting hit, and then he wants to blame Tommy for hitting him, and you can't really do that because it's your fault. We told you to get out the way. So after this scene, Chuck leaves. He goes home, meets with his uncle or his cousin or something like that, and his cousin immediately decides to indoctrinate Chuck into joining the Klu Klux Klan. So that's basically where we get the Klan part of it. At that point, the Klan has the Lees on the radar, and that's where we start to see them be terrorized. Superman is in the book, and he's all over the place in the book. It's not like you can ignore that it's a Superman comic, but I think the book would have been better without him, because this is real life and a real situation. Adding fantastical elements to this just kind of diminishes it for me. He's there. His story is like the least interesting. So when the book starts off, we get Superman. He goes up against Metallo, but this is a kind of like an Elseworld story. So instead of it being Metallo, we have him playing a Nazi called the Atom Man. Superman takes him out, and when he takes off the Atom Man's costume and finds out what's powering him, is I guess this is Superman's first encounter with kryptonite. So when Superman is exposed to kryptonite, what he sees it makes I guess I don't know if this is he's really transforming, but his hand transforms into more of like something that's less than human. So like instead of having 5 fingers, his hand transforms into something that's obviously alien, and this bothers Clark. He gets really insecure about himself around the people that's around him. And this is something I have never seen with Superman, where he would be insecure about his appearance. That's something that I would kind of expect from like someone like Martian Manhunter, but we get it from Clark. And we have that connection that's established where Superman is insecure about his ancestry. Roberta is insecure about her move to Metropolis and wants to go back to being in Chinatown, or at least she wants to be able to assimilate, but she's not going to be able to do it all the way. So there's a connection between that character, and we have that connection with Superman. The book itself, there's a lot of great small moments in there. It's a great read, despite the price being $7.99. You got a lot of content here. Your regular book is $3.99 for 22 pages. I think 80 pages for $7.99 is a decent price. It's totally worth it. The art style, I know I've been kind of down on it. None of the art is bad. It's not a bad looking book. The only thing that gets me about the art is that the tone is just too lighthearted for the subject matter. But if you can get past that, everything else is pretty good. I don't have any issues with any of the story content. I think that using a family that isn't black to tell the story is somewhat inspired, because one of the things that happened after I read this book is that I immediately looked online to look up any type of activities against non-black hit by the KKK, because I thought that KKKs were almost like an exclusively black hate group. But once I did a little bit of research, I found out that they did have issues with immigrants and other minority groups. So it wasn't like the KKK were like the Joker to black people's Batman. It's like the KKK were going after all types of people. With that being said, I learned a lot from my experience with this book, and I learned that it was based on the 1940s show, which I'm going to link in the description for this video. And what blew my mind about that story is that being an adaptation of a 1940s show is that the show was so damning to the Klu Klux Klan that membership actually dropped after the show was aired. That's a trip to me, because what it shows is like the power of radio. Like we don't really, we take it for granted because we have so many different media outlets like television, we have movies, we have YouTube and all that stuff. But at one point, radio was king. There was no television. You have the songs video killed the radio star, and that's essentially true. But just to think that the radio was what everybody was plugged into, and this actually had a cultural national influence, Superman, it made my experience with the comic a lot deeper than what probably would have been before. I think before I learned that information, I probably would have gave the comic a B. But after learning it was an adaptation, I had to raise it to an A, because this is material that, it's just for the reality behind the story. The KKK is a real hate group. So even though they aren't as relevant as they were in the 1940s, I think it's important that they aren't forgotten. I didn't get the sense that DC published this book to exploit racism or to do this political game. And I appreciate the publisher taking risk for getting this material out there. I'm not a fan of heavy politics in my comics. You probably noticed if you follow me for a while, I'm pretty conservative. But when you have stories like Superman smashes the Klan, because the material is based in the real world and a real world time in history and a real situation that occurred in America, I think it's a time capsule type of book that's worth looking into. And for that reason, I recommend this, and I can't wait for the second volume. We do our rating system here, A through F. I gave Superman Smashes the Klan an A-, and the only reason the minus is there is because of the art and the atmosphere behind the art. If you want more, you can subscribe to my channel. You can click the bell for notifications. Let me know that you're interested in more reviews. I try to do mainly indie comics, and I do DC comics mostly when I do a mainstream publisher. I'm not really into Marvel, but occasionally I'll review the X-Men books that are coming out. I'm not really a big fan of Marvel comics. A lot of garbage there. If you want any more, just let me know. If you have any special requests, let me know in the comments. You can find me at gtmediareviews.com, or you can look up GT Media Reviews on Facebook and Twitter. I'm usually there chatting it out. I'm in and out of social media, so if you're looking for me, you can find me. Thank you for your time. Have a great evening. Deuces. I'm out. Bye.